everybody. Hello, lovely ladies, lovely gentlemen. So I am doing a live stream here on my Instagram account as well as in the Free and Empowered Facebook group. And today I'm going to take on the following subject. When narcissists hurt you, do they know what they're doing? How does empathy actually work for narcissists? So that is a question I know many of you have asked yourself, and it's actually a pretty simple answer, but at the same time not so simple. But before we get started, I just want to let everybody know that on July 3rd, we're launching the Inner Mastery Lab. So if you identify with the way that I approach healing from childhood narcissistic abuse, then absolutely pay attention to that, because it's going to be, we're going to start on July 20th, but the cart will be open starting on the 3rd. So hello everybody who is connecting. Please let me know if you can hear me okay, because sometimes due to connection problems, the audio doesn't work that well. So, all right. Do narcissists knowingly hurt you? How does empathy work for them? Well, this is how it works. There's many different types of empathy, right? So you have something called emotional empathy. And this is when you really feel what other people are telling you. I mean, they start telling you their story, and it's almost as if you cry alongside with them because you just absorb their emotions. So emotional empathy can also be kind of paralyzing, because you might feel so much that you can't react. So when you're dealing, for example, with certain personality types that are hypersensitive to other people's emotional states, such as borderlines, for example. If you need help, they might actually go kind of crazy because they're feeding off of your energy of needing help, and then they start feeling that inside themselves and they can't help you, right? So that's emotional empathy, when you feel it so much that it takes over you. There's also something called compassionate empathy. Now, this is a great type of empathy because you can feel other people's pain, you understand, you can put yourself in their position, right, in their shoes, but you're not paralyzed. You're able to help, you're able to call for help, you're able to be a shoulder to lean on, right? You're able to offer some support. So this is great, for example, for therapists. We're back on Instagram. This is horrible, guys. The connection has been like this the whole day. So we also have something called cognitive empathy. Cognitive empathy is when you can see that the person is having certain reactions, but there's no emotional charge for you. You're neither really feeling their pain, nor do you actually feel motivated to act in any way. So emotional empathy, you feel all of it. Compassionate empathy, you feel it, but you can act, you can step away from it. And cognitive empathy is like a psychological process for you. You see what's happening, but there's no charge for you to care, almost. This is what narcissists have. They have cognitive empathy. And I get why this can be so confusing, because there are definitely many moments while you're interacting with narcissists where you get the clear impression that they do have a lot of empathy, because they sure make you feel like you're getting a lot of attention, like you're being paid attention to, you're being seen, like your needs are being observed, right? And the thing about this empathy with narcissists is that it's not that they don't know how to read your reactions, it's that they can't be bothered. They really don't care. So this is actually quite confusing and disheartening, because it's different. For example, when you compare to a psychopath, it would seem that psychopaths, we already know that their brains function differently in the sense that they have shallow emotions. They just don't experience certain emotions such as fear like we do. And so it's expected that they wouldn't be able to feel another person's emotions as well. But that's not the case with narcissists. They have a fully functional ability to observe these things. It's just that they don't care, which is how they're different from psychopaths, okay? Psychopaths don't care because they can't. Narcissists can, and they don't have the willingness for it. They just don't care. So they do obviously use empathy and tune into your desires and inner world at very key moments where they will gain some benefit from this. So, for example, during the love bombing phase, you are going to be made to feel like you're very important, like all of your needs, your dreams, your inner world is extremely important, and you might actually become completely open to the narcissist and reveal lots of very intimate information. And this is going to happen. You're going to get all this attention, all this impression that you're actually being heard for two reasons. The first reason is that narcissists idealize you, right? They need to see you as being really great because they want to see themselves as someone who is with someone who is really great. So that's why the love bombing happens in the beginning. Narcissists are actually like looking at you as if you were this awesome creature that they're creating in their minds, because they want to be seen in the world as someone who would have this awesome creature hanging off of their arms, right? So this makes you feel like they're paying attention to you, but really they're having a relationship with a figment of their imagination that is just basically something nice for their ego, right? And the other reason why narcissists will give you all of this attention is that they will actually gather information. And any one of you who has dealt with narcissists, you will absolutely confirm that this is true. There are moments where you feel like they're being nice to you and they're listening and they're asking questions and they want to know about your life. But then what happens? When they can use it against you in the future, they will. They'll mention it at inappropriate times in front of people who they know you feel uncomfortable about. They'll rub it in your face, at specific moments. Like, for example, when you criticize them, they might take something from that list of things you told them and be like, yeah, but you're the sort of person who does this, right? So that's the second reason why narcissists oftentimes do appear to be quite empathic. What they're doing is they are actually gathering information. Okay, so there's other situations where they're going to seem like they have empathy. Hoovering, for example. If a narcissist has sensed that he is losing his control over you, you're leaving the so-called shared fantasy or his sphere of influence, right? Then he or she might want to suck you back into the relationship dynamics he might be, for example, by being empathetic, right? By being super loving, by appearing to have changed, to want to know about your needs and your life. So narcissists are known to even apologize during hoovering phases to demonstrate that they regret things and to try to feign personal growth so as to suck you back in. Another situation where they might seem empathetic is if they're in an environment where people who act this way are applauded, are given attention, such as when you're dealing, for example, with communal narcissists. Communal narcissists are super confusing because to the outside world, they're heroes. They might actually do a lot of concrete, nice acts for humanity, for the homeless, for the stray dogs, for, pregnant teenagers, for hurricane survivors. I mean, they're always taking the pictures and showing up on social media and letting everybody know how they do all of these wonderful things. And then we think, well, maybe that's empathy, but it's actually that there are many different ways of you acquiring narcissistic supply. You can make someone be scared of you by being a bully, but you can also make people applaud you by being nice. And we will notice that these people, these communal narcissists actually have covert narcissistic characteristics when they're not in the spotlight, letting everybody know how empathetic they are. So that's something to keep an eye out for as well. Is this person empathetic, or does this person put on a show to get applause, right? As a communal narcissist would. Another situation that gets us really confused and makes us think that narcissists are empathetic is the intermittent reinforcement phenomenon that happens with narcissistic relationships. You know that whether you're dealing with a narcissistic mother or father or spouse or date or whatever it is, these relationships have patterns, right? And they're quite cyclical patterns where it starts out a certain way. If you're dealing with like a romantic partner, there's the love bombing phase. And if you are a child of a narcissist, often, unless you were the scapegoat from the get-go, you will notice that throughout your childhood, you actually did receive, it would seem, some attention and validation from your parents. And that's super confusing. But then what happens is this changes, right? As soon as you demonstrate individuality by becoming a teenager, for example, the level of attention you get goes away, but you still have that dream in your mind of that wonderful relationship you had as a child, and you keep trying to recreate that dream, and you're never going to get it back. And when you're dealing with romantic relationships, you have that love bombing phase that was so intense that you want to recreate, you want to reactivate. But what happens through intermittent reinforcement, you're never going to go back to receiving that level of so-called empathy and attention. Now and then you're going to be thrown a bone, you're going to be thrown some scraps, and you will convince yourself, because it's been so long since you had a little bit, of anything, you'll convince yourself that that's actually a lot bigger and a lot more than it actually is. There's a whole lot of rationalization that goes on when we are in abusive relationships. We try to justify the many months of famine, right? By telling ourselves, okay, I haven't gotten any nutrition from this person or this relationship in so long, but guess what? I got a crumb just now. So this is super important, and this is proof that this person has empathy and thinks about me. So you also have to think, am I trying to kind of paint this person out as being more empathetic because I need to believe they are? Or is this just part of intermittent reinforcement? Okay. Another situation where we think they're empathetic, but in hindsight, or if you just kind of take a step back, you can see, that's not really what was happening there, is through twinship. So twinship is when two people have a relationship, and generally there is a dominant personality and then there's a more dependent personality, and the dependent personality kind of becomes the dominant personality's twin. So whatever the dominant personality likes, the dependent personality kind of takes on as well. So narcissists often do this. They will do this, for example, with surrogate daughters. Some of you might have had this experience of maybe being neglected or rejected by your narcissistic mother, but then she shows up with this like daughter that's more or less your age, and it's a woman she has a motherly relationship with, so as a substitute daughter. So oftentimes in these types of relationship, it is expected that the surrogate daughter, or even the golden child, right, be expected to just mirror back whatever the narcissist wants to perfection. Like, this means I'm going to pretend I don't like anything that the narcissist doesn't like, and if the narcissist says that the sky is blue, then I'll just be like, yeah, the sky is blue, narcissist. And if the narcissist says an hour later, you know what, I decided the sky is pink, then I'll just be like, yeah, the sky is pink, narcissist. So through twinship, people start acting like twins. And this might feel like human connection. This might feel like there's loving going on there. There's a human connection. But really, the moment the more dependent personality stops being a perfect twin and it starts having a different opinion, then the narcissist loses interest. They will discard this person or, ridicule them or whatever. But it will not be acceptable that they don't want to just validate exactly those things that the narcissist needs them to validate as empty twins. So this also confuses people and makes them think that they had gone through a period of a relationship with a narcissist that was loving and based on empathy, and really it wasn't. It was based on you just being the narcissist twin. Another situation in which narcissists can confuse us is when they actually do realize that people who work on themselves achieve certain types of validation. So there are some narcissists who get help. There are some narcissists who, of course, we know that this is obviously not something very common, but there are narcissists who get help and then kind of use this and use self-help and spirituality as a way of acquiring just narcissistic supply, basically, and of pulling the wool over the people who convive with them's eyes, because their behavior doesn't actually change. The relationship issues just still remain, they never change. Your issues are always unaddressed. You're still always blamed for everything. You're still giving more than you take in the relationship, right? You still feel unseen and generally just confused the whole time. But they are using a front of being people who are working on themselves and people who are connected to others and who are interested in all of this self-development, when really it's just a front. They are once again just painting over their false self instead of actually getting in touch with and developing their true self. They're just using therapy or this image of working on themselves actually to get further narcissistic supply. All right, so see, there's lots of situations where narcissists seem to be empathetic, but really what's driving their behavior are quite self-serving motives. Now, let's understand the inner world of the narcissist just a little bit more. Okay, so I said that they have cognitive empathy. They can tell that something they're doing is having an impact or that you're having certain reactions, but they just don't care. Why is it that they just don't care? Well, think about it this way. Narcissists are actually plagued by this underlying sensation of being inadequate. It's this constant wound, all right, that they have to feel in one way or another, or that they have to defend against through their grandiosity, right? And obviously, different types of narcissists will get in touch with this feeling of inadequacy to a different degree. Covert narcissists will actually judge themselves quite harshly and actually feel quite inadequate, whereas the grandiose narcissists will just, scapegoat everybody else, and anything that's wrong with the world is other people's fault, and really they're just fantastic, and they have less contact with this shame. But what's underlying their behavior nonetheless is this feeling of being inadequate. Now imagine that you had like a wound on your foot, right? And you've had this wound your whole life, and every time you take a step, and you kind of need to take steps regularly, you know what I mean? It hurts. So you take a step and it hurts, and you take a step and it hurts, and you take a step and it hurts. And you're living with this constant pain, kind of like Dr. House. Remember that series where he was like always, lashing out and being rude to people, but he was constantly in pain and he had to take medication for it. So imagine that you have this existential pain, this existential boredom, which is what narcissists feel because they're disconnected from life. They're disconnected from themselves. They're disconnected from reality. They're disconnected from life. They're disconnected from other people. So they feel psychologically dead. They feel boredom, right? And then you're constantly comparing yourself to other people. Either you're making upward comparisons because you're a covert narcissist and everyone's success just bothers the living crap out of you, or you're a grandiose narcissist and you're making downward comparisons when you're like, he's trash, well, he's trash, he's trash. So there's always this comparison going on, which is a mechanism trying to guard you from feeling the underlying inadequacy. So this is going on inside of you 24/7. And what this does is it puts you in a state of anxiety, a state of fear. Narcissists have a hard time processing other people's fear, but they certainly do feel fear themselves. When you're in a state of fear, this is another way of saying that your animal mind takes over. So your prefrontal cortex, the part of your mind that thinks, rationalizes, reflects, analyzes, has insight on one's behavior, this is deactivated. Because what's going to be activated is the part of your mind that deals with fear. Because fear means danger. Danger means I need to survive. So the narcissist is in the fear activation part of the brain. When you're in that part of your brain, all you want to do is survive, and there is no thought about the other or tomorrow or anything beyond just reacting to stimuli right now. So what I'm trying to say is narcissists are arrogant. Remember the characteristics that the DSM lists. They are arrogant. They exploit other people. They have a sense of entitlement, which just means that they think the rules don't apply to them, right? They feel chronic envy because of the comparisons they're constantly making between themselves and other people. So this is their emotional state. This is what they're like inside. And they're constantly lashing out from this space of fear. I have to protect myself now. I have to protect myself now. And they're not worried about you because that part of their brain that worries about how they impact people is deactivated. So it's like they're always reacting. They're always being reactive, right? In that sense, they're not really thinking about how they're being assholes or just sadistic. But at the same time, if you pause and you say, hey, you know, when you act like that, you affect me in such and such a way and it hurts me. They don't care. And this is where it's like mind-boggling. It's not just, it's because it's both simultaneously a situation where it is kind of, they're not thinking about it. You know, they're just so self-centered that you're not really an issue. So they're going to take what's theirs and do what they need to do for themselves. And if it affects you, they just don't care. And it's not because they're not capable. They use empathy when they want it. They really just don't care when they're not going to get something from that situation. All right. So, having said that, there's also other things that go on inside abusive people's minds, which is you can be even a grandiose narcissist where you're like, oh, I'm the best in the world, you know, or even a psychopath. The moment life doesn't go your way, the moment things aren't the way that you need them to be, then what do these personalities become? They become victims. 2 seconds ago, they were monsters and they were menaces to society. But now that things aren't going my way, I'm a great victim. You know, so what I'm trying to say here is that abusive personalities, they absolutely will rationalize the crap they do and put themselves in a position of having been the ones that were like, that suffered some wrongdoing. So there's a whole lot of rationalization that also makes them not really care about what they did. There's like, when dealing with narcissists, if, for example, let's say that, you know, you're a teenager and you're giving piano lessons and you're making a few dollars here and there, but over the course of many months you're able to save up a few $1,000s, and one fine day I don't know, the washing machine broke and some dude needs to come into the house and fix it, and that day your mom, who is a covert narcissist, thinks, I know my son has about $3,000 that he's been saving. You know what, I'll just take that. I've raised him well. I give him food. I give him attention. That's okay. What will a 16-year-old know what to do with $3,000? This money's better off in my hands. And then she'll steal your money and tell you that it was the guy who was fixing the washing machine. Or was that what I said about washing machine? Or the oven? Whatever was broken, right? And in her mind, she rationalized it as this is the best for everybody. So there's an awful lot of fantasy involved in the way that narcissists think. Remember that narcissists reinvent their personality according to what will trigger the listener to give them the most narcissistic supply, right? So in much the same way, they will excuse their own actions through their own fantasy and through their own rationalization, and really to be able really to keep on seeing themselves as just being okay and the rest of the world as being wrong. So there's all of that fantasy going on. Okay, having said all of this, how can you protect yourself? How can you make sense of all of this? Well, I think the very first thing is be super aware of why you're even asking this question. Like, Why am I asking whether narcissists know that they hurt me? Is it because you want to justify their behavior and maintain contact with someone who is abusive? Is it because you want to tell yourself, well, you know what, he suffered or she suffered when they were kids, and this makes them be manipulative and abusive. I have to cut them some slack. Honestly, I have a completely different point of view. I think lots of people suffered in their childhood, and some of these people did become abusive. But some of these people did not become abusive, and you can totally choose to have the ones who did not become abusive as friends and lovers, rather than to choose to be near the ones who became abusive. You know, like I said, abusive personalities, when they're caught, when things aren't going their way, when they lose control or power somehow, they will become the victim. This is another way of saying that they will pull at your heartstrings by using their sad sob story. So never let the fact that someone does things that are hurtful because they are hurting inside be a justification for being mistreated. You know, if you want to have a relationship with someone that was hurt inside, have a relationship with someone that was hurt and healed. Then you will have a relationship with someone who has tremendous inner power and strength and wisdom and courage and love. Don't have a relationship with the other unhealed person who thinks that they're unhealed and, you know, that means I can bleed all over you. This makes no sense. So really start analyzing the situation, not from the point of view of, well, maybe I should be more patient with them, but rather, what do I need for my mental health? How is this relationship affecting me? What am I rationalizing? Why am I rationalizing it? What am I afraid of if I actually face the fact that this person has a fixed personality structure and they're not going to change? And that what I thought was empathy isn't empathy at all. Right? And then, of course, what I will always suggest, particularly when you're dealing with abusers, because what abusers do is they will have you questioning your perception of reality, your interpretation of reality. So you will be second guessing yourself. You will not be taking your own emotions and needs into account. You will be giving the abuser the status of the sole authority in your inner world. So you lose faith in your own voice. You use faith in your own feedback system, like your body and your intuition, that let you know through that gut feeling or through that just weird feeling in the air that something's off. They let you know that something is not aligned and that you need to pause and pay attention or distance yourself from that. So instead of getting lost in the rationalization of why does she do this? Why does he do this? Why do they hurt me? To what extent does he know that he's hurting me? You know, just focus on the fact that the behavior does hurt you. And then above all, go back to trusting your body. What does your gut feeling tell you? What does your intuition tell you about this? These things are a hell of a lot more simple than we make them out to be. When it comes to trust, it's a lot easier to treat it as a black and white situation. Can you trust that person? Yes or no? What does your body tell you? And you're probably going to get a very clear signal from your body, right? So ask yourself a few questions. Are your issues heard? Are they dealt with? Or do you keep thinking that this person might be loving and empathetic, but really nothing ever changes and that the issues are always the same? Ask yourself, are you always second guessing yourself and confused about what's up and insecure? Because healthy relationships will help you find your inner axis. Healthy people will help you find your inner wisdom. If this person constantly destabilizes you and leaves you feeling confused, that's something to question. How do these people react to your success? Do they get happy or do they get clearly vexed? How do they react to your failure? Do they get happy then? So this is going to help you gauge how much these people actually love you or how much they can't really connect to you in a way that is going to nurture your true self, right? Is there an equal give and take in the relationship? Or do you constantly feel that not only are you giving more, but you're rationalizing it? Ah, he's tired. Oh, you know, he was hurt when he was a kid or whatever. right? So all of these are relevant questions for you to ask yourself in order to be able to go back to trusting what your body, your intuition, and your perceptions have to tell you about whether this relationship is toxic or not. Because that's what you need to define, whether it's toxic or not, and whether it's going to change. Now, you have those answers inside. You've probably seen the red lights. It's probably just a matter of you processing this information and really trusting yourself and trusting your interpretation of the signals. But you're going to trust yourself when you go back to your body and back to your intuition, because your body and your intuition will give you much more clear, straightforward answers about these things. All right. So let me know if any of this helped you at all. Let me know what your experience with narcissists and with empathy has been in the past. Again, on July 3rd, we are starting, we're actually launching the Inner Mastery Lab. We're starting on the 20th, but the cart will open on the 3rd for all of y'all who want to participate. You can click on the link in the description if you're on YouTube, or the link in my biography if you're on Instagram, or just send me an email at info@tarianarocha.com.br if you have any doubts about the Inner Mastery Lab. Okay, that's it. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe, hit that bell so you get notified whenever I release videos in English, e fazemos vídeos em português aqui também, right? And share this video if you thought it was useful. It might be super useful to somebody else. Thank you so much for your time, and see you around.